If you have ever found yourself waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., I want you to pause for a moment, because that's not just your body waking up. That's your spirit being stirred. At that sacred hour, heaven is whispering your name, calling you into divine alignment. God is not disturbing your sleep. He's inviting you into conversation. Those hours carry spiritual weight, and when your eyes open in the darkness, it's not an accident, it's a calling. Something powerful is shifting in your life, and God is trying to get your attention before the world wakes up. In those quiet moments, your soul is most sensitive to His presence. Your spirit is most open to His voice. This is when He reveals the next step, the breakthrough, the healing you've been praying for. Stay with me till the end, because today you're going to understand exactly what that divine awakening means and what you must do the moment it happens. And if you're someone who wants to stay connected to the voice of God and receive messages that strengthen your faith, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss what heaven is trying to speak into your life. When you find yourself waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., understand that something divine is happening. This is not just a random interruption in your sleep. It is a spiritual signal that God is calling your attention. During this sacred hour, heaven is at work. The atmosphere is quiet, and the noise of the world has faded away. Your mind is clear, your heart is open, and your spirit is sensitive to what God is trying to communicate. Many people dismiss these early awakenings as coincidence, but those who walk closely with God know that He often speaks in stillness. When you wake up at that hour, it is a reminder that God has something to tell you, something that cannot wait until morning. It could be a word of guidance, a warning, a revelation, or a simple reminder that He is near. In these early hours, the spiritual realm is most active. Angels are moving, prayers are heard, and destinies are being shaped. It is not a time to roll over and go back to sleep. It is a moment to open your heart and listen. When you awaken during these hours, resist the urge to pick up your phone or distract yourself with thoughts of the day ahead. Instead, take a deep breath and center your spirit. Whisper a prayer and invite God into that quiet space. Say, Lord, I am listening. Because sometimes all He needs is your attention. It is in this silence that clarity comes, burdens lift, and peace begins to settle in your soul. The reason God wakes you at this hour is because He knows your heart is still. You are not rushing. You are not busy. You are not distracted. In that calm, your spirit becomes like a mirror that can reflect His voice with perfect clarity. This is why the Bible often speaks of watchmen on the walls, those who stay awake while the world sleeps, those who hear what others cannot. When God wakes you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., He is asking you to be that watchman for your own life. He is calling you to intercede, to pray for protection, to seek wisdom, or to stand in the gap for someone you love. Many breakthroughs are born in these hours. Miracles are prepared in the quiet moments before dawn. If you take that call seriously, if you respond to His prompting, you will start to see changes in your life. You will gain spiritual sensitivity that others overlook. You will begin to discern His presence not only in those early hours, but throughout your entire day. You will start noticing divine patterns, subtle confirmations, and sudden peace in moments where confusion once lived. God is building something within you every time He wakes you up at this hour. He is training you to recognize His voice, to depend on His timing, and to trust His process. Every time you answer that call, you grow spiritually stronger. You build intimacy with God that no sermon or book could ever replace. So when you find yourself awake at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., do not fear. Do not question it. Simply know that heaven has chosen that moment to meet with you. Your awakening is not a disturbance. It is a divine appointment. In the quiet stretch of night between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., the veil between the physical and the spiritual world becomes thin. And this is when your inner being becomes most aware of the divine. During these sacred moments, your senses are heightened in a way that cannot be explained by logic. The reason is simple. Your mind is resting, your emotions are still, and your soul stands alert, ready to receive what heaven wants to reveal. This sensitivity is not weakness, but a sacred alignment that allows divine communication to flow directly into your spirit. It is a time when distractions fade and your heart becomes an open space for revelation. God uses this stillness to whisper direction and release understanding that you cannot grasp in the chaos of the day. Those who recognize this moment as holy will find that it is filled with answers they have long prayed for. But to receive it, they must first be still enough to listen. At that hour, something extraordinary begins to stir within. You may not see it with your eyes, but you will feel it deep in your being. It's a pull, a gentle prompting, a sense that there is more unfolding than what your eyes can perceive. In that spiritual sensitivity, God impresses thoughts, visions, and confirmations that carry deep purpose. Sometimes it is not through words, but through an overwhelming peace that washes over you. Other times, it comes as conviction, a clear realization of what needs to change, what must be left behind, or which path must be taken. In this divine encounter, your heart receives what your mind cannot reason. This is the difference between worldly knowledge and divine wisdom. One comes from learning, the other from revelation. When God awakens your spirit in those hours, He is preparing you for the next level of your purpose, opening your understanding, and strengthening your faith to walk into what He has designed for you. You must learn to embrace that sensitivity instead of resisting it. The more you respond to these divine nudges, the stronger your discernment grows. Soon, you will notice that you begin to recognize His voice in ways you never did before. You will sense His leading in conversations, decisions, and even in moments of silence. That awareness is a gift. It trains your heart to move in sync with His will, and once that happens, you will begin to experience favor, guidance, and peace that surpasses understanding. The early hours are not just a time of wakefulness. They are moments of transformation. Each awakening is a reminder that you are being shaped for something greater. It is a sign that your prayers are not being ignored, but are being refined in God's timing. So when your spirit feels that pull, when your eyes open before dawn, remember that this is no coincidence. It is a divine invitation into deeper alignment with the One who holds your destiny. Respond with faith, humility, and openness, and you will see how God turns those quiet encounters into lasting direction, supernatural clarity, and unstoppable strength. When the clock moves silently through the early morning hours, something unseen begins to unfold. The atmosphere carries a stillness that cannot be explained by science. It is not just the world resting. It is creation holding its breath because heaven is near. When you rise between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., that moment carries tremendous power. It is the hour of divine transactions where prayer becomes more than words and faith turns into movement. During this sacred window, Your spirit carries a strength it does not possess at any other time. This is when you can speak directly to God with clarity and power. You are not simply uttering requests, you are shaping reality through divine authority. Many of the world's greatest breakthroughs were conceived in such moments, when hearts reached upward while the world lay asleep. When you bow your head at that time, you are not praying alone. Angels move with your voice, and heaven aligns with your words. In these precious minutes before dawn, prayer becomes an act of spiritual warfare. You are not only asking, you are declaring victory. The darkness that tries to linger loses power in the presence of faith. This is when your intercession becomes a weapon. When you kneel at that hour, you are not weak. You are being armed with strength that shakes unseen forces. Every sincere prayer you release rises like fire before the throne of God. The heavens respond to determination, not to noise, and your quiet but confident whisper carries more weight than the loudest cry made without faith. This is why many spiritual leaders throughout history valued those early hours. They understood that when you give that time to God, you are sowing into eternity. Every second becomes an investment in your destiny. The energy that flows through your spirit is no ordinary energy. It is divine empowerment. When you finish that prayer, the peace that follows is not just calm. It is confirmation that heaven heard you. What happens in that time shapes the day ahead. Barriers begin to break, confusion begins to lift, and the strength to endure begins to rise. The prayers offered in those hours carry longevity. They continue working even when you are unaware. When you speak life, you plant seeds that will later bloom in moments you least expect. That is why consistency matters. You may not always feel emotional or inspired, but obedience creates power. When God sees your faithfulness, He releases favor that cannot be denied. Your prayer opens doors no one can shut and removes obstacles no human effort could move. It builds unseen protection around you, your home, and your purpose. When you pray between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., you are not only asking for change, you are stepping into partnership with heaven. You are walking into the flow of divine energy that sets things in motion. So when you wake up during those hours, don't see it as interruption. See it as invitation. That sacred hour carries your breakthrough, and your willingness to pray in it proves you are ready for what God is preparing to release. When the Spirit awakens you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it is not only to speak or pray, but to prepare. Preparation is the language of divine purpose. When God calls you in that hour, He is not merely giving comfort. He is positioning you for a greater assignment. The human heart often seeks answers, but heaven seeks readiness. This is the season when He molds the inner being for what lies ahead. You may not always understand the process, but the silence is shaping your spirit. God is arranging circumstances, shifting opportunities, and building resilience within you. When you are awake while the world rests, He is working in you a strength that cannot be destroyed by challenge or fear. This sacred moment is not just about listening, it is about becoming. Every encounter you have with the divine presence in that quiet hour refines your character, disciplines your emotions, and strengthens your resolve to carry out your calling with excellence. During these moments, the inner eye begins to see what ordinary sight cannot. You start discerning connections between your present trials and your future victory. The Spirit unveils layers of purpose hidden behind disappointment and delay. What felt like rejection begins to reveal itself as redirection. The power of divine timing unfolds slowly, but with precision. When God wakes you in those hours, He is saying, I am aligning your path. That alignment may involve removing certain distractions or relationships that no longer serve your purpose. It may mean placing new thoughts within your mind that carry the blueprint for your next chapter. Often, the peace you feel during that hour is not simply comfort. It is confirmation that your steps are being ordered by heaven. Every whisper of guidance you receive becomes a building block for your future. The wisdom that enters your spirit in those moments is not random. It is a divine seed that will grow in the right season. As you continue to respond to these divine awakenings, transformation becomes visible in every area of your life. You begin walking with clarity and confidence that cannot be shaken by doubt. Your spirit carries calm authority because you know you are being led, not by your own understanding, but by divine orchestration. You notice that situations which once frustrated you now strengthen your patience. People who once distracted you no longer disturb your peace. You find yourself drawn to deeper reflection, cleaner environments, and higher thinking. That is not coincidence, that is growth. You are evolving from a person of reaction to a person of revelation. You are learning to move when God moves and to rest when He commands stillness. This is the essence of spiritual maturity. To act not from fear, but from faith, not from impulse, but from insight. When you embrace this discipline, blessings begin to flow naturally, doors open without striving, and divine favor becomes your atmosphere. Every time you respond to that early morning call, you are telling heaven, I am ready. Ready for expansion, ready for direction, ready for divine partnership. And when heaven finds readiness, blessings are no longer delayed, they are released. When you are awakened in the stillness between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it is a signal that something is shifting in the unseen realm. This is not a coincidence. It is a divine encounter meant to awaken your purpose. In that sacred window, the spirit world becomes alive with movement. Your soul begins to sense things before they happen. And heaven releases instruction for the path ahead. It is the time when destinies are whispered and faith is strengthened for what is coming. God is not calling you to be restless. He is calling you to be ready. When you rise in obedience, you align yourself with divine order. That single act of waking with awareness sets in motion blessings that would have otherwise passed unnoticed. Every time you respond to that call, you step into partnership with eternity. The moments spent in communion at that hour hold more power than days filled with endless noise. It is in that sacred silence that the blueprint for your next season is written. The divine purpose of these hours is not only revelation, but preparation for elevation. God uses the quiet to equip you with strength you did not know you possessed. In those moments, clarity replaces confusion, and courage begins to grow where fear once lived. Your heart becomes sensitive to divine rhythm. Your mind becomes sharp with spiritual understanding, and your actions begin to align with heavenly timing. The dreams that felt distant begin to take shape because you are now moving under divine instruction. What once looked impossible starts to unfold with ease because you are no longer striving through effort, but flowing through alignment. When God finds you awake at that hour, He sees a vessel that is listening, one that can be trusted with insight others ignore. That trust invites favor, protection, and divine acceleration. The stillness of that time is not emptiness. It is the presence of power waiting to be activated by faith. As you continue to rise when the Spirit calls, transformation becomes your new reality. You begin to see your circumstances through heavenly eyes. What once felt like delay begins to look like preparation. Every prayer uttered in those sacred hours carries energy that continues to work throughout the day. You may not notice it immediately, but slowly the atmosphere around your life begins to change. Peace starts to settle where chaos once ruled. Purpose becomes clearer. Distractions lose influence, and gratitude becomes your default posture. The person you were begins to fade as the one you are meant to be takes shape. That is the power of divine connection. It reshapes identity and renews strength from within. Every encounter in those early hours plants seeds of faith that grow into action, wisdom, and victory. When you honor that call, you walk in rhythm with divine timing. You stop chasing outcomes and start receiving direction. You stop doubting and start trusting that every moment of awakening has meaning. That sacred window is your invitation to align with destiny, to rise above fear, and to step fully into the power designed for your life. God calls in the silence not to disturb your rest, but to awaken your purpose. When you answer that call, you open the gates of blessing, wisdom, and peace that transform your life from ordinary to extraordinary. Before you close your eyes tonight, remember this: God never wakes you without reason. Every early hour you open your eyes, heaven is reaching for your spirit. Don't roll back into sleep, rise into purpose. That quiet moment is your invitation to step into power, peace, and divine direction. Something greater is calling you, and your obedience will unlock what prayers alone could not. If this message stirred something deep inside you, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay connected, because the next word might be the one that shifts your entire season. Stay awake in spirit, your breakthrough is already on its way.